Welcome to the Shine Away podcast. I'm joined tonight by Brandon Clark, the head football coach of the Derby Panthers. He has been the football coach at Derby since 2006. He has 13 state semifinals in 14 seasons. From 2013 to 2020, they won 6 out of those 8 years. They won the state championship. He was the 2016 Kansas Coach of the Year. He played wide receiver at Kansas State University. He is an author of Culture Champion with Dave Gordon and Kevin Chase. He's married to Courtney and has 3 kids. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks for having me on, Jake. I'm excited.
Yeah. Excuse me. Well, let's just jump right in and take it back to young Brandon and growing up. Obviously, you're a football guy growing up, but what other sports with football did you play growing up?
Yeah, well, when I first started growing up, I really wasn't a football guy. I never even thought of being a football guy. We couldn't play football until eighth grade, where I grew up in Valley Center. I grew up playing soccer, baseball, basketball, anything outside that I could compete against my friends with. I mean, we were part of that generation that we're outside all the time in the backyard, in the front yard, on the basketball court, doing everything like that. So I grew up playing soccer and baseball and then basketball later on in my elementary years. And then finally in middle school, I got to do track and football. And then when I hit high school, I became a football athlete, a basketball athlete, and a track athlete.
Yeah. So during those years, as an athlete in multi-sports, were there any coaches that you can look back now and you take tidbits from certain coaches that coached you through your youth?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I can go back when I was in first grade kindergarten with my dad coaching me and a guy by the name of Randy Rich, who's my best friend's dad. And they coached us in multiple sports and, taught us what sport was and taught us to compete and, taught us that you had to work hard at practice in order to win. But then I get up to middle school and had some good coaches. And then high school, the coach that I fell in love with that really made me want to be a football coach was Mike Smith, my high school football coach. We were actually in eighth grade, we were a pretty good football team, and then we would practice right next to the varsity. And Valley Center at that time when we were in eighth grade, they went 0-9 in varsity, and we were listening to all the coaches and how they talked to all the kids, and we were like, "Man, we're not going out for football. There is no way." And then that coach ended up getting let go the springtime of my eighth grade year. They hired Mike Smith, and he came in, recruited us all, told us it was going to get a lot better, and it did. By my junior year, we were playing Liberal in the state semifinals. Same my senior year. He really taught me the game of football, taught me to love it, but taught me that football is a much bigger thing than just a game. There's a lot of community, there's a lot of connection, there's a lot of family element to it. So it just made me fall in love with that game and carried that on to college to play for Coach Snyder.
So that leads me to my ultimate question and why I like to have these conversations with you coaches is why do you coach?
I coached because my role model was a coach. I listened to your interview with Coach Appleby. He's my cousin, the Mill Valley head coach. He's very successful. He has taught me a ton. He's made me want to be a better coach. But my role models were my father, my young coaches, Coach Smith. When I fell in love with the game of football, and I can remember that day, it was our last game our sophomore year, and I remember looking at the two biggest studs on our team. These guys, you wouldn't crush, you wouldn't say anything bad to, but they loved you up, but they were studs. They were seniors, and I remember seeing them after that game. It was our last game. I think we were in the quarterfinals or something my sophomore year. Both of them just bawling their eyes out, hugging with their dads. Just very very emotional. And I remember riding that bus ride home, and I used to be a basketball guy. Just used to love to play basketball, and I remember that bus ride home, and I could not wait for the next football season. I told myself I was going to do everything I could to make sure our senior class, the next senior class, which I would be a junior, wouldn't have that same feeling.
Yeah. Well, it usually takes something deep inside like that and that drive. And it sounds like you started at a young age with your dad and
Mm-hmm.
your friend's dad teaching you to love competition. And if you're going to play sports at any level, but if you're going to play high school football, you better be able to compete. And no matter what, whether you guys are good or not, you still want to compete. So you had a unique entry into the high school head football coach. If I read it right, you were 25. Is that right?
Yeah, when I accepted the job, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I was 25 my first year. I'm not sure. But
So you played at K State under Coach Snyder, and obviously we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I just want to touch base on the fact that you entered the arena as a head football coach of a program, a good 6A program that was struggling a little bit at the time.
mhm.
I mean, you probably didn't seem that much older than the kids you were coaching. So take us through that journey as a young 25-year-old taking over a program and to where you are now.
Yeah, and to start off with, I was not ready to be a head football coach for Derby High School, but I wanted it bad. And when I first got to Derby, I remember when I got a phone call from our principal. I was heading home from the Cleveland Browns training camp. Just got sent home due to an injury. And I remember thinking I was about ready to hang up the cleats and throw on a whistle, and that's when I got a phone call from the principal to come and interview. And my goal at Derby was to coach underneath Tom Young because back in the late '90s, the early 2000s, I mean Tom Young was the one of the best coaches around in the state of Kansas. So I was like, I don't want to be a head coach, so I want to go coach underneath him. So I accept the job here, and then didn't hear anything from the high school coach. And finally, in the early summer, I called the principal up. He said, "Well, the position that you're supposed to take, the wide receiver position, he retired as a teacher, but did not retire as a coach. So I didn't have a spot on his staff. I was pretty upset. You know, I was pretty high and mighty about myself, pretty thinking pretty good about myself. But I ended up taking a eighth grade B team football job here at Derby. And at the time, I was not happy, but had a blast doing it. And just going down to the middle school level taught me about so much. We weren't running the high school program. We were doing whatever we wanted to. We had big numbers. There just wasn't that connection to the high school, except for you're playing the game of football. Well, that next year, Coach Young retired. I think he went off to Leavenworth before he hit McPherson, and I was pretty upset because I really wanted to coach and I wanted to learn from him. We ended up hiring Coach Aslan, who was a young guy, really good, full of energy. He ended up he coached for a semester basically. He was already on staff, and then he left to be the DC at Garden City Junior College. So then we hired another coach, Coach Bliss, who had won all the state titles at Conway Springs, and he had just happened to go down to Florida to start a new high school football program. And he and his family wanted to move back to Kansas, so he took the Derby job. Well, that year we went 0-9, and I was part of that staff. It was not good, so he wanted to get the heck out of here. And then I became the fourth coach in 4 years here at Derby High School. And it wasn't fair to the kids. It wasn't fair to the community. But basically, during my interview, they interviewed me, and the one question they asked is if I would stay here. And I said yes. So that's how I got the job. And one of the only things I asked for the job was to bring Coach Appleby with me. And we always had that bet. Whoever got the first head coaching job, the other guy would coach with him. And Coach Appleby joined me, and we kept on a bunch of the staff members and hired a couple new ones. And ever since then, it's just been growing, and I've learned a lot. Over 20 years of being a head coach, you tend to hopefully you learn a lot. And over the years I have, and I've had some great help, some great coaches like Coach Appleby and many others. I've lost a lot of coaches. I think I've lost like 12 or 13 coaches to become head coaches throughout these last 20 years. So it's been a ride. It's been fun, but my first year, I wish I knew now.
Yeah, I mean, at 25, you're out of college, you're not ready for anything. Life's thrown at you, whether you're getting married, having kids, doing whatever first job out of college, whatever it is. It's a thing. But then in your situation, I don't know how many you had on your program, but probably 100 plus kids turning and looking at you like, "What are we doing? What's the plan today? How's this going to work? What's going on?" And so that's a big responsibility.
It was, but I had the luxury of coaching here at Derby for 3 years, so I had a connection with the kids, and I care about them a lot. I was very passionate. I was very young. I was very energetic, and it was a smooth transition. That first year, though, we went 1-8. But I'll tell you, to this day, that one game that we won was the most emotional, one of my most favorite games I've ever coached in. It was a special moment with those kids.
Yeah. So you were one of the many players that played under Coach Snyder there at K-State. What, if anything, did you take from your time under him to bring it to your program, either at the high school level or just the way you coach and handle your staff?
Well, just kind of knowing that I wanted to be a high school football coach. So I was taking notes. I was taking notes in high school. I was taking notes in college. Still in everything that Coach Snyder instilled in us. One thing Coach Snyder did a really good job is the accountability part of football. He held everybody accountable, and he made us all overachieve. He found a way to get the most out of us, and he did that by hard work, effort, believing, being a good teammate, surrounding yourself with good teammates, and that's I'll forever be grateful. Just the accountability part of every little detail. You can't let all these small details go, because a bunch of small details end up being a big detail down the road. And he taught me that, and I was very disciplined when I left the K State program.
How do you take accountability to the high school ranks? Because you got, the seniors, they've been there and they've been in the program. Then you got your juniors and your sophomores or second year. But that incoming freshman class, which my assumption is your middle school is now in sync a little bit more than it was when you took that job, which is always a good thing. But that freshman year is a big change for those eighth graders. So how do you get them to start buying into that accountability and every year continue to keep that accountability with your kids?
Yeah, so we build relationships with our kids about first grade level. And that's when our Derby Junior football starts, and then we start building off that. And we're around those kids all summer. I've got about 25 kids in the indoor right now, running with Jake Sharp and working out with them. So times like this, you get to know the kids and get to kind of earn that trust from them and build that relationship. And once I get up to the middle school, we have two middle schools, and they even play each other. But we always tell the kids, wait, your all-star team forms your freshman year. So the kids are super excited to get up their freshman year. And they finally get to play with each other. They've been playing with each other during Derby Junior football. Usually we have two or three teams per grade level in Derby Junior football. So this is the first time since first grade that they all got to be on one team. So it's pretty special. But we teach we tell our kids, and they know it, these seniors are going to treat them like gold. It's a long time ago, we really got the seniors to buy in on servant leadership, and to welcome these freshmen and guide these freshmen and be good role models to these freshmen. So, our seniors understand this is their year, and we tell them we have a faith and leadership retreat at the beginning of the summer with our kids, and we go through what leadership looks like and what they want to do. And we tell the kids, you guys are the leaders of this team. Our coaches, we do not want to lead. We want to fill in the cracks. We want to guide you guys to help you guys get to where you want to go. But you guys are the leaders of this team. But it starts with serving your teammates first, because right now this senior class cannot win a state championship or get to where you want to go with just the senior class. You're going to have some juniors and some sophomores, maybe even a freshman play a little bit. Then you're going to have those guys buy into wanting to get you guys better during scout team and all that. So the kids have really bought into it, and we've had some great seniors in the past that have kind of led the way. So it's kind of just bled over, because these seniors now that we're going to have next year had a great senior class in front of them, and were great servants to them, and taught them the ways and helped them navigate their way through the first year of high school.
So I was really excited for this conversation with you, just because you're a K-State guy, I'm a K-State guy, and I remember you playing football there. And then I've seen the success. And then when I talked to Joel, and he mentioned you're a cousin, so that made it even more special. Then this weekend I was at 5A East Regional Wrestling, and I talked to Brian King, the head football coach here at DeSoto.
Uh-huh.
He mentioned that servant leadership part of it.
Mm-hmm.
He explained that he heard you talk about how everything led to that first state title. And then you realized, oh, there's got to be more than this. Like that, this is a really cool experience. So can you talk a little bit more, how you ended up getting to this servant leadership? And I don't know if that's what this 1 Degree Compass is.
Yeah, and that 1 Degree Compass is our culture program that we developed about 10 years ago, and we've always been really high into our culture and our leadership programs,
Mm-hmm.
but we finally named it. We have our own culture coach. Before that, we had a character coach who was our pastor at Woodlawn United Methodist Church, but he he got shipped off to Topeka to run a church there. So then I asked my friend Kevin Chase to be our culture coach, which him and I developed the 1 Degree Compass along with a couple other guys. But yeah, going back to that, I when I first started here and went 1-8, it still is pretty difficult to live in the town of Derby and go 1-8, even though you go 0-9 the year before. There's people talking, and one of my goals in life, or one of my goals right then was, I had to look myself in the mirror. If I wanted to look at myself in the mirror and say I was a success, I had to do what Tom Young did. He was the only coach in Derby to win a state title. We won a state title back in 1994, and he was the head coach for that. And people always talked about, you always heard it, you're not Coach Young, you're not that good, you're too young, blah, blah. So I had to become Coach Young as quick as I could. And I did everything I could. We pushed the kids. The second year, we went 5-5. After that, we started hitting our semifinal drought, or semifinal where we couldn't get out of the semifinals. I think we went to the semifinal 4 times in a row, finally got out the 5th time in 2013. And by then, I was burnt out. I was getting ready to hit burnout. 2013, we had a really, really talented team. We had a team that the kids were really close and they were all best friends. So I thought this might be the year, and ended up being the year. We played one of Dustin Delaney's Shawnee Mission East teams. They were really talented. Came out, had a big interception kind of towards the end of the game, then pulled away and won that state title. But to get there, I started thinking, was I the coach that I really should have been, or did I just want to win that state title? Was that the only thing driving me? Was I the father at home that I should have been to my kids? Was I the husband at home? Why the heck am I, barely 30 and end up in the hospital twice with heart problems during this stint from when I first got the coaching job to 2013? So, I wasn't probably doing the right things to find success. And then 2013, we find it. It was everything I dreamed of. The crowd's cheering, everybody rushes, the field, giving hugs. Our coaches are just so excited. I get to see one of our coaches had his son on the team. It was a very special one. It was everything I dreamed of. Gatorade bath, everything. Then I remember after everybody left, got done doing the interviews, started walking off. It was me and my wife and my kids, my parents, and I was walking with my wife off, and everybody's out of the stadium. I remember taking about 20 steps, and I remember turning around. I remember looking at my wife, and I kind of get emotional when I tell a story, but I asked my wife, I go, is this it? Is this it? So the time I thought would be the best time, the best moment of maybe my coaching career, ended up being probably one of the lowest moments of my coaching career. That's when I decided to, yeah, you can have accountability, but that can't drive everything. You can have discipline, but that can't drive everything. You got to focus on positive energy. You got to focus on the service part of it. You got to focus on all these little things to create a better culture, not only for our kids, but for myself and our coaches. So that's kind of when I made the switch, when I really decided to, quit putting so much pressure on myself and quit just driving everything just to win a state title. And since then I think we've won 5 since then, so it's kind of worked. But I think to get to where we needed to go, maybe not that state title, but earlier on we had to drive, we had to weight room, X's and O's, everything, just all those little things, those detailed things. But I think once we got the program in place, and once we got those junior football program, the middle school football program, everybody aligned and it started to take shape. I think that's kind of when it all started to allow us to kind of take off the pedal a little bit, not 100% of the time, and enjoy life. And that's the moment I did.
Yeah, well, that's a wonderful story. And my guess is if you would have came out in year one, gotten 1-9, and started talking about, hey, we're going to be doing servant leadership versus focusing on the state championships, you may not be there right now. So unfortunately, that's just the culture sometimes in sports. So you gotta prove yourself essentially that first time, and then say, hey, I know what I'm doing, but there's got to be more for these young men and my staff, my family. There's got to be more to it than just football.
Yep, I totally agree.
And just out of curiosity, because I know how the public school system works, you've referenced faith a couple of times. Is that something you had to walk around kind of gingerly, or is it like, I mean, I'm I'm a believer, and I used to, when I was coaching my son's youth basketball teams, not school based but youth. We'd pray after games and different things, and we'd do stuff like that. And I always would tell the kids, this is not mandatory. This is something you got to choose to do. I'm going to pray, but if you don't feel right and don't want to, you can step out. Like, don't, nobody's going to judge you.
Yeah.
Then I took a middle school job, and they're very clear. None of that.
Hmm.
So, um, is it something that the community's become ingrained with, that you're not forcing this upon them, but this is part of my program?
Oh yeah, and that comes back to trust. I was an assistant here, and we had a coach here going into the newspaper. No, we're going to pray. We're going to do all that stuff, and he was very, it more became about that than the actual prayer itself. We had our team chaplain that we called our character coach, Paul Wilkie, and all the parents knew it. The whole community knew it. Everybody loved Paul, and he would lead prayer on Thursday night meetings. That's kind of our culture meetings that we have, and he would actually lead the meeting before I got up there and talked. I kind of piggyback off him, and but the kids knew they didn't have to go to it, but they all did. Nobody was forced, and Paul did a really good job of talking about faith and not about which faith you had to be, had to have your faith in. Even being a Christian, there's different, faiths kind of being a Christian. So he did a good job, and we never made kids. We've always had. So we don't have captains on our football team. We don't let the seniors vote for it. We used to do that, and then it just divides the team. And then they're saying, oh, the coaches, they lied about the ballots and so, blah blah. So we're like, you know what? That the captains, we'll pick weekly captains for games. And so we don't have captains on our team, because we tell our seniors, you guys are our leaders this year. This is your year. You take us to where you guys want to go, and we'll help you get there. But we do have one captain, and we pick it at the Faith and Leadership Retreat, and it's our faith captain. And every Thursday night meeting, every time before a game, sometimes after games, when we pray, we take a knee, and I say, say a little prayer by yourself. Think about what matters most, and then when you're ready, go ahead and lead us. And then he leads us in the Lord's Prayer. So that is the one captain we have on our team, is the faith captain.
I love hearing everything about that. That's one of my favorite things about football, is the camaraderie there, the unity that the coaches, you, Appleby, uh, Dylan Schmidt there at Andale. I've talked to him, Coach King, and hopefully many more. But you guys do a good job of bringing the communities together through your football program, and it's not always about football; it's about other things.
Yeah.
So you started this about 10 years ago, you said, with your program. When did you decide you were going to be an author?
Well, when we started this, something really bad happened, and it was the first year that Kevin Chase, our culture coach, became our culture coach. So we figured we were going to have to start something and call it something. And we took a fishing trip out to Colorado. I love fishing. I love fly fishing. I love fishing for trout. So we went out to Colorado for a 3-day trip with a buddy that helped us develop this. Never once fished. All we did was talk. All we did was, we go on walks. We do some fun stuff, but it was all about this culture program. By the time we ended up, we had the 1 degree compass. And what that is, Kevin always talks to our kids at our Faith and Leadership Retreat about having a life compass, how everybody needs a life compass. You need to have this compass to, when you get off, you have to get back going north. You have to go to where you want to go. The decisions that you're making that aren't getting you to where you want to go, and you got to eliminate those and be smart enough. So we did the 1 degree compass for kind of as teammates to see if somebody's getting off 1 degree, let's get them back on course to get them back going where we want to go. I think the aeronautical, if you're off by 1 degrees for 60 miles, you're off by 1 mile. So, if you're off by 1 mile your whole life, you're going to be pretty far off when where you want to go. So that's kind of the basis between the 1 degree compass, and it's founded on accountability, character, energy, and service. That's kind of our core values to our football team. But going back to the book's name is Culture Champion. And it's not about being a champion on the football field. It's not about being a champion in life. It's about championing others and championing the culture that you're a part of. And that's really what we try to get our kids to do. It's a fable. Kevin Chase, he's a rancher right now. He's a retired banker. He owned a bank and sold that bank about 5 or 6 years ago. Now he just lives on his ranch, and we call him the cowboy, and he's our culture coach. How we wrote the book, It's kind of a little story. There's a book I read, and I'm a big believer in reading books and listening to podcasts and making yourself better. I read a ton of books, love books. And I read this book at the time called Tip, Take It Personally. And it was written by Dave Gordon. And it was one of those books, it was a fable, kind of like Culture Champion, kind of like all the John Gordon. He's actually John Gordon's brother, who wrote the Energy Bus and all those books, like 40 books. Anyways, it was so good and it moved me so much. I saw his email and I got his email and I just wanted to thank him. It was a real quick email, say, "Hey Dave, thank you so much. I'm going to buy this book for our whole coaching staff. We're going to do a little book study on it. I want them to read it. It moved me. It made me a better person. It made me really excited about life. So I'm going to buy this for all of our coaches." That year, I ended up buying Tip for our coaches, and I bought the Energy Bus for all our freshmen. Well, just so happened, Dave emailed me back that same day and said, "Hey, thanks. I really needed that email, not having the best day." I was like, "Cool." He goes, "Let's once your coaches read it, let's reach out and let's get on a conference call." I was like, "Okay." We never did that, but that was the year COVID hit, and that was a pretty tough year for us. We had to shut down for like 9 days. We ended up having like 30 kids in 5 days get sick, so we had to forfeit a couple games and not have any contact. Everybody be at home, so we had to navigate through a lot. But that book helped out a lot, and that year we ended up winning state. And I made my list of people to thank after we won state, and I started writing letters and emailing people, "Thank you." And I wrote Dave and said, "Hey, thank you. I think your book really played a role with our coaching staff and how to navigate through, all this COVID stuff. We ended up winning state, and I really thank you for writing that book and inspiring us." And 2 months later, Kevin Chase, our culture coach, and I are on a plane to New York to meet with him and his wife for a couple of days and got to know them. And he always said he wanted to listen to our stories, and we told our stories. And Kevin and I do a lot of keynotes and go out and talk to the public and different companies and stuff. But he was like, "You guys should write a book." And I'm like, "I'm way too dumb to write a book." I could write a book, but I ain't writing a book. And then we stayed in contact with Dave. He helped us out with some of our presentations. That's kind of why we went up there, and just to meet him. But he kept saying, like, Kevin and I, we have Culture Tuesdays. Every Tuesday we get together, we talk culture after school. And sometimes we invite people in. Sometimes it's just him and I talking about next year football, about the Thursday night meetings and what we can do differently for our football team. But we'd always, at least once a month, always Zoom with Dave. And I finally told Kevin, I said, "If he says this again to us that we need to write a book, I'm saying, 'All right, Dave, you got to write it with us.'" And sure enough, he said, "When are you guys going to write your book?" And I said, "Well, Dave, you got to write it with us." He said, "I'd love to." And then that went on that was like a 3 or 4 year process to write that book, but it was fun. It was, it took a lot of time, but during the winter time, like right now, you kind of have time to do stuff like that. So it was an experience. A lot of different additions and a lot of stuff taken out, a lot of stuff added, but it was fun.
I went searching for it and found it. I couldn't find it on anywhere local to get a hard copy, but this is always with me, and so I do have it on Kindle, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And now I'm looking forward to going out and searching. You said it's Tip by Dave Gordon.
Yeah. Yep.
That's another book I want to get it and read. Both of them sound very interesting, so I'm super excited to read it. I got a trip coming up with my son to England, so
Awesome.
I'm going to load up on some Kindle books.
Oh, that'll take you 3 hours to read. It's an easy read. I always tell people, "Hey, I helped write it. It's at like a second grade level, so you're good."
That's good. Those are my favorite. Awesome. Well, continuing on that, you mentioned you didn't have captains, and that's pretty unique. And I like the idea and the reason why and the way you guys go about it. You have the leadership of the seniors. Obviously, you empower them to be the leaders. Do you ever rely on juniors and sophomores as well? Like seniors push down some to the lower levels to help get the freshmen, because putting it all on the seniors, because it's a big year for them anyway. Does it naturally just roll downhill to take some ownership to the class below you, or is it just all on the seniors?
Yeah, it's those seniors. If they're good leaders, they're going to want the juniors to help them lead. They're going to get them part of it, and you've got natural born leaders. You got guys that are leaders. We've had a running back here that's had influence on our team since his sophomore year, Arius Finley, and he'll be a senior next year. I mean, he had a lot of influence and leadership last year, but we put it on our seniors on uh, basically holding the team accountable. And let's not have these little things, these little issues, and we had a ton of them last year. That getting away from us getting better at the game of football and become closer as a team. So we put that on the seniors, so they take real big ownership into it. And we've got so many people in Derby that have played for us. Just they had to wait. They freshmen, they play freshman ball. JV, they played for 2 years, and then finally they get their chance to step out and play some meaningful minutes at their senior year. So it's something different. I'm sure a lot of programs can say it, but man, our kids rise up their senior year. We take an average kid that's been average, average football players the majority of his football career, and then he becomes a senior. All of a sudden he has this confidence and he wants to lead and he does all this, and all of a sudden he just blossoms. So seen it multiple times. But our seniors, if they're good leaders, they should want help from the younger kids. And there's seniors that we tell our kids, lead by being genuine. We talk about that at the faith and leadership retreat too at the beginning of the summer of their senior year. Just be who you are. You don't have to be rah rah. You can lead by example. You can pull kids, help kids, mentor kids. There's different ways to lead, but be genuine. Be who you are, and that usually helps out a lot. We've had kids, seniors that we don't really want them to lead because they have influence, but it's probably not the right influence that we want to have. So we kind of put the good ones in the situations to become the leaders of the team versus the kids that cut corners and don't do things that they're supposed to do. So that's kind of our job as coaches to put those kids in those positions.
So transitioning to you as a coach, as the head coach, as the guy overseeing everything, obviously we've talked a lot about your players. How important is it to surround yourself with a staff that has the same mindset? Obviously, you want them to have their own individuality and on plays and how we should maybe attack something, but falling in line and understanding this is the way the program runs. How important is that for a good, solid football program?
Oh, it's vital. Everybody now can be great X's and O's coaches. I mean, there's so much information out there. You don't have to drive 8 hours to a clinic or anything like that. You can get on YouTube. You can, get on conference calls with other coaches and stuff. But to have a great coaching staff is huge to have success, and to have a coaching staff that sticks around. I'm we have by I believe we have the best coaching staff in the state. I've got a bunch of guys that have been here with me for over 20 years. I've got guys that have been here with me for 15 years. I've got guys that have been here for 10 years, and a couple that are a little bit newer to the program, but have been around the program, have played for us in the past, or have been a coach and stepped back into it, and been around a program for a long time. So we cannot do what we do without the players that we have, and the coaches that we have. I could not be standing here, talking on this podcast without those coaches that we have. I mean, we got coaches that are way smarter than me. We've got coaches that I never say anything to our defensive coordinator. I let him run. I always have. Whatever defense, we talk about kind of philosophy and stuff like that. But during the season, it's if I had to step in, I guess I would, but I don't think I've ever had to step in because I've had such great defensive coordinators, and he has great defensive coaches to help him out too. When we hire coaches, usually it's been very seldom I've ever hired a coach. It's always been kind of like our whole staff tries to pick a guy that we think is going to fit in well. Usually I ask them for recommendations versus, put it out in the public that we have an opening for guys that they want to bring into the program. And usually they bring great guys. Probably half our coaching staff right now is brought in from our coaches, but from, previous coaching staff that they've coached on, or guys that they've known or played with, and stuff like that. So very seldom do I ever have to hire a coach by myself.
Yeah. So you've obviously played in big games. You've won state title games, and you've lost some big games. One of the things that's always intriguing to me is how do you, as the head coach, go about getting your players ready for the big game? And then if that game goes the right way and you win and get ready for if there is another game after, how do you get prepared for next week? Or conversely, if you happen to go on the losing side, how do you get ready for the next week? So what is your philosophy in preparing for those games?
Well, it's probably the very cliche answer that you probably got from all your coaches. We're preparing for the big game right now. I'm pretty intense. I put a lot of pressure on our kids when we're working out at practice. I probably, if you didn't know me, you probably think I'm a lunatic. I'm always trying to put pressure. I'm trying to apply pressure. I'm not screaming at the kids. I'm screaming at the tempo. I'm screaming at let's go, let's go, let's go. Get our coaches involved. Let's turn up the tempo because once you hit a game, the passion comes. The kids, the fans, the coaches, we all become very passionate. So we got to create that passion early. And the real big thing about our kids is the preparation part of it. We used to call practice, and Kevin Chase, our culture coach, Cowboy, he challenged me about 5 years ago. And he's like, why do you call practice? You've practiced your whole life as a little kid. You've hated practice before. These kids, you remember junior football practice when there was 2 hours and they were running wind sprints and all that. There's a lot of negative around the word practice. And he goes, why don't we call it preparation? So for about 4 years, we started calling it preparation to get the kids' mindset that we were preparing for that Friday's game. And a couple of years ago, I went up to Kevin and I said, "Hey, this word keeps coming at me, and I'm gonna take away your preparation, and we're gonna separate now." So instead of Monday practice, Tuesday practice, Wednesday and Thursday practice is separation, and our kids know it, and they believe in it. They believe in that thought. That's part of our culture. Words play a big part of your culture, and I didn't even tell the kids to do this, but ever since we started calling it separation Monday, separation Tuesday, they start practice out when they get a break and they say separate. They know that our goal from Monday through Thursday is to separate from the team that we're playing Friday. And you do that by preparing, by watching film, by practicing hard, by doing everything that you're asked to do and more. And they also know that not only are we going to separate from the team that we're playing Friday, we're going to separate from the teams if we continue this and continue to separate and continue to have this tempo and this mindset that we're going to separate from the teams in the playoffs too. We can separate every week from those teams and get a little bit better than what they're getting each week. So just it's a mindset. It's kind of a mentality, kind of a we can't take a minute off. We can't take a day off. We can't take a week off. We got to separate, keep separating. And that's started now. It started in the weight room. It continues in the summer and goes into fall camp then week one.
With Mill Valley now being 6A next year and your cousin leading a heck of a program up here, do you and your coaching staff, when you know you're going to face, say you got the game next Friday against Mill Valley, and you know the quality of coach that Joel Appleby and his staff what they do, does that make you work even harder knowing that you're going to have to be ready for everything that he could throw at you?
But when you play talented teams, there's a lot of good coaches out there, and they don't have the talent that some of these teams do. And there's some teams like Mill Valley that have really really good coaches and have talent too. And you just got to trust what you've been doing all year. You really can't you can't treat that week any differently, because if you do, the kids see it and they know when you play in Mill Valley, when you play at Manhattan, when you play at Wichita Northwest or Washburn Rural, you're going to get really good players with really good schemes. The coaches are really good across from you. So what we got to do is we got to practice so hard and watch so much film that by the time game time starts, we don't have to think. We know what they're going to do. We don't have to think. We can react and we can play. And that's built through the whole week of practice, and it's just built through the season with the belief, in each other, the trust in each other, the culture that you create within the team. I tell our kids all the time, people use the word culture to soften up programs, like when something goes bad, oh, we got to work on our culture. We got to do this and do that and put sayings up, go out on Twitter, Facebook and put all these good sayings. And that's who we are. I said, part of our culture is being tough. part of our culture is we want to walk off the bus and people to be scared of us, and we got to create that culture internally at our boot camp, at our workouts, at our practice. We got to create that mindset so people do fear us. They see us on film, they don't want to play us. So, I mean, Joel does the same thing at Mill Valley. They're good, they're tough, they're well coached, and they've got a great off season. So we know that, but we try not that week to do too much different than we do all year. That's why we try to keep that mentality all year, all summer, all winter, just get that mindset going for the kids.
I think it was Coach Hurley. I just saw here a quote from him the other day. There at UConn, his style of basketball, his team is toughness. That's our style. We play toughness. Like, he doesn't say we're fast, we do this, we're tough. And it sounds like that's your guys' motto. So you're a competitive guy, and you also hold yourself to a high standard, I'm sure. So I mentioned earlier I coached middle school basketball, and we had a game against two undefeated teams last Wednesday, and the game was getting a little tighter, and I was asking for a timeout, and the ref thought I was asking for something else, and I ended up getting a technical. And so I took that, and I told the boys, and I said, hey, I don't believe I deserve that one, but just like sometimes you believe you deserve a foul and you don't get the foul, they're making judgment calls too. And so it is what it is. I have to own that. So the next day I had to run sprints. That was not fun because I'm not in very good shape. Now I feel bad for what we make those kids do.
Yeah.
But in a football game, I've been fortunate at DeSoto to be a chain gang guy a couple times, and so I really enjoy that. Get to see some of the coaches on the sideline and the demeanors that they have, and there's some really fiery guys and some that keep a pretty even keel.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say your demeanor is on the sideline during the games?
Yeah, I would say when I first started, it was full of passion. I think the kids, kind of like what we talked about, the discipline part of it. I think the kids had to have somebody that believed in them. So right or wrong, I was going to fight for them during the game. I was going to fight for my kids, tell them I got their back, no matter if we are horrible or if we're halfway talented. I'm going to fight for you guys because you guys are fighting for us at practice and getting yourself better and believe in everything that we say. So I was full of passion. Probably sometimes I probably shouldn't have had that passion, but over time, I've got that passion. I would say when we need passion, I bring it, and a lot of times that's at practice, not in games, because during games our kids are excited, our fans are excited, our managers are excited, our film guys excited, our coaches are excited. You don't have to bring that passion. Sometimes you do, sometimes in the locker room. But I'm probably a little kind of even kill during games. I get passionate. I have fun. One of our biggest, one of our core values is energy. And, I'm going to have the kids celebrate the little things. We're not going to celebrate till we win a state championship. We're not going to celebrate till we win the game. There came a point. I used to be the coach. My coaches, my dad, everybody always told us, the saying in football, act like you've been there before, hand the ball off to the ref, do that. And I was that coach when I first started, act like you've been there before, score a touchdown, get the ball, go hand it to the ref, put your head down, jog off, then you can celebrate with your team on the sideline. And, as I was an act like you've been there before coach, that first year we probably only scored 5 times, so we didn't have to practice it that much. In 2013, I switched that, and it was total opposite. If you weren't down there celebrating, linemen, running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, if we didn't have 11 guys celebrating that touchdown with each other the right way and having fun, then we were doing up downs the next day. So I kind of had to reteach on the kids. It's all right to have fun. One of your teammates makes a big hit, go celebrate that. What does that do to the team across from you? Celebrate the right way. You don't have to make them look bad or anything. Just go have fun. And so that's the kind of coach I am. Our kids know that, so they have a lot of fun. Sometimes, you have to pull them back when they kind of take it a little too far. You got all these end zone dances and stuff, and some refs let you do it, and I never see the dance, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, we've been doing that for 2 games, and we finally got flagged. And I was like, oh gosh, you got to dial it back as a coach sometimes. I think I play for whatever situation presents itself is kind of the coach that I am.
Yeah. I talk to the kids all the time that we have a way we want to play, but I don't want to take your personality because that's what makes you special. And so how do you navigate that? Because you've got about 100 or so personalities. So how do you get them to be their personality yet still play Derby football?
That's part of just being comfortable with who you are, and I think our culture allows that for kids to be who they are, and to accept other kids who they are. So we've got. Last year we had one of my most favorite kids graduate. He was a 3-year starter for us, Dalton Hornback. We called him the sheriff, and you got zero emotion from him. He was the nicest kid in the world. He was our spiritual captain last year as a senior. He did everything right, and but he wasn't gonna show emotion. I mean, he was gonna have fun, but I mean, he was that leader that was just quiet, and you know, we allow that and we let our kids see that. If that's who he is, he doesn't have to go celebrate and do all that. People can celebrate on top of him when he makes big plays, but just let kids be who they are. And we have so many different personalities on this team. Usually, you can find a bunch of kids that have that same personality and hang out with them.
Well, let's move to my quick hitters here at the end. These are some of the fun questions for me, maybe not so much for the coaches, but some of the all-time Brandon Clark coached players.
Gosh, man, there's so many, and probably so many that nobody has ever heard of. Um, Luke Palmer comes to mind. He's a guy that we had one of our best players ever, who's one of my most favorite players too. Probably not his freshman year, but by his senior year, he was one of my favorite players. DeAndre Goolsby. He goes down in a playoff game, and we got 6'5", 230-pound tight end going to Florida, who's really turned it around, really hard worker, great kid, great teammate, get injured. And we had this little, 5'8", 165-pound kid come in and back up tight end and make some huge catches. And it was so deserving. He was such a hard worker, and just kids like that play on your team. One of my favorites earlier on was Devin Hedgepeth. He became just an absolute stud. I remember we were trying to get him a D1 scholarship because we knew he was D1 capable, and everybody just said he was a little too slow. And there was prelims I think we were in Hayesville at a track meet his junior year. And I told Devin, I said, Devin, I don't care. At the time I was the head track coach. I said, Devin, you better let's run these prelims fast. I don't care about the finals. There's like a 40-mile-per-hour wind at your back right now. We won't have this in the finals, so let's get that good time. He ends up running like a 10.8. Next week, gets like 10 offers. Ends up going to Oklahoma State and goes through a lot of adversity there. He started his freshman year and was already talked about getting drafted, and a couple years later and stuff, was one of the premier DBs, and tore his Achilles like 3 or 4 times, has a book out there, ended up going back to Harvard, went in the oil business, went back to Harvard, got his MBA there, and then he's doing great things now. I've got so many stories like that. So those are my favorite kids, the kids that are good kids, the kids that are good leaders, the kids that lead by example, and just do things the right way.
So we're going to flip it a little bit. You've played in a lot of big games. I know you faced some really good football players. So who are some of the toughest players you've had to scheme for?
Oh, earlier on, it was probably the Brown brothers. Bryce Brown. I mean, he had a couple offensive linemen in front of him, but it was just, he was kind of like, Christian Okoye on Technoble. You can't stop him. He was a stud. Arthur Brown is his brother. One of our receivers caught a hitch one time and started running down the field full speed. It was the first time I ever seen somebody run somebody from behind and lift them up and throw them on the ground. Like, it looked like they were colliding, but he was actually catching up to him. So he was a stud, and he was a lot of fun to watch. But I mean, we've seen the Mertzes, the Avery Johnsons, the Maivella this year, and the list could go on and on and on. We've seen so much talent. One year we ran into, it was the year, what's his name, Giddens was at Junction City. Topeka had that one running back that I think went to Iowa. And then KU has a running back, the guy that just graduated from, or at Lawrence had the running back that just
Devin Neal.
Yeah. So we went through all 3 of those guys to get to the state game.
That's
about a year of running.
That's some good running backs there.
Yeah.
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 All right, you spent some time at K State, so you know the program well. So who are some of the all time K State football players?
Oh man, like I said, I was a basketball guy growing up, so I really didn't become a K State fan until my cousin Joel went there, Coach Appleby. But man, I loved watching Kevin Lockett. I loved watching one of my favorite guys to watch, and probably a lot of people don't know the name unless you really watch the '90s. Was Mitch Running.
Yeah,
He
he was
was
good.
a wide receiver, and he was just shifty and just nasty, and he just caught the ball. So he was a guy I kind of mimicked off of, and then it's all the guys I played with. Golly, we I was when we played, it was a pretty good time with the Michael Bishops and you know, best friends with John McGraw, Ben Lieber, John Robertson, Andy Eby, Nick Warren, Shad Meyer, all those guys. And, not only were they my teammates, but a lot of those guys were my heroes too. So it was fun playing that at that time.
And the last one I got for you, NFL. So who is it that you watch in the NFL that you really are intrigued by?
Currently, I'm a big Chiefs fan.
Hmm.
Love Mahomes, love what he represents, not only and just watching him grow, watch his maturity, kind of how he doesn't react now to plays. It's like next play mentality with him. He sets himself up for the next play, and he's a good leader. He helps the guys. He picks guys up on the sideline. Um, and then Travis Kelce he's fun to watch. I've also seen him grow through the past 10 years. He used to be just like me as a coach, just full of emotion, passion. His earlier years, he still has it, but uses it at the right time. And he's just a talent. He's a guy that he just says has it. Probably growing up, probably my one of my idols in NFL was Ed McCaffrey. Really liked watching him. Went out to a summer camp one time and got to watch him play a little football. Never watched him actually play live in a game, but it was a guy I tried to mimic off of at the wide receiver position.
Well, I lied. I guess I got one more.
Okay.
I asked Joel this because I'm curious. You're so ingrained in the game of football, even at the high school. You're at the high school level, but you know the game. When you watch the Chiefs, are you able to just watch it and enjoy it? Or are you watching? Are you dissecting some plays and like, oh, he missed that one. He should have done this. Like, how do you watch a football game?
Well, first of all, like if I can't watch it, I DVR it so I can watch it by myself. But usually, if I watch it, if we're home from Sunday meetings or whatever, I'm able to. I have to make myself enjoy it because my wife is so competitive and so loud. You can't concentrate during the Chiefs game. I mean, she's screaming, yelling, doing all that stuff, and so are my kids. So I enjoy it with them. And then we got it taped, so then I can I remember this play, kind of make mental notes on stuff to go back on and watch and kind of I mean that's why I said technology. I mean you can still so much. I mean the X's and O's right now is so easy at all levels just to get new plays as long as those plays kind of fit your system.
Hmm. Well, and I didn't mean to leave your wife Courtney out of this. Family therapy. I'm a big believer in therapy. I think it's a great tool for anyone that needs it. So that's awesome that she's been part of the high school there for I think you said 21 years as
Yeah,
a family therapist.
she's a marriage and family therapist. She's it's called school based therapy.
Hmm.
She doesn't actually work for USD 260, but she has a
Okay.
little office in there, and she has a big workload. I mean, she probably has changed more lives than I ever could imagine changing as a football coach. I mean, she has taken some kids through some really hard times, and given them therapy and gotten them through high school, and even maybe some of them went through college or got a really good job after that. And what she sees and has to go through every day, and to do it for as long as she has is amazing. She's seen our football players before. I'll have parents come up just openly, oh, your wife has just changed the life of our son, and I'm like, well, did I have anything to do with it too? But they just
Yeah.
love her. She does such a good job, and she the kids love her.
Well, that's awesome, and kudos to her because that's not an easy job,
Not at all.
and but it is a needed job and sometimes
Hmm.
a thankless job. So thank you to her for what she's doing for the young people there in Derby, and thank you for what you do for the program as well, and your servant leadership and your faith based messages that you got for your program. So I appreciate everything you said here today. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I got to pinch myself every day. I don't even feel like I've worked a day in my life, and I feel like I just started yesterday. So it's been a lot of fun, and thank you for what you do with this podcast and try to shine a light on the right things in life and not the bad things. And it's really cool what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Coach.
Yep. We'll see you.
See ya.